Artifacts not only tell stories, they are silent witnesses of the past, holding the most unsettling mysteries. Today, we will dive into the depths of the ocean to discover 15 relics recovered from the Titanic that will make you shudder. These pieces not only reflect the magnitude of the tragedy, but are also infused with stories that seem to come straight out of a horror movie. From personal items filled with emotions to pieces that seem to possess more than just history, each one connects us to the fateful journey of the RMS Titanic. Get ready to explore the chilling secrets these relics have brought to the surface. These stories will not only captivate your mind, but could also change the way you see history itself. Ready for this journey to the past? Join us as we unravel the shadows of an unforgettable tragedy. Number 15. Love letters. The Titanic, known both for its tragedy and for the human stories it holds, was also the stage for true and profound romances. Among the artifacts recovered from the wreck, a love letter written by Richard Geddes, a third-class cabin assistant, to his wife Margaret, stands out. This letter, found more than 70 years after the catastrophe, was written on official Titanic letterhead and sent in a White Star Line envelope, making it a deeply personal testimony of the passengers and life aboard. In the letter, Richard not only expressed his eternal love for Margaret, but also recounted a disturbing incident that occurred on April 10, 1912, just days before the collision with the iceberg. On that occasion, the Titanic came dangerously close to another ship due to the powerful propulsion of its propellers, which broke the mooring lines of a nearby vessel. Captain Smith's quick decision to reduce speed and maneuver avoided disaster, but the incident left a lasting impression on the passengers, some of whom considered it a bad omen. Richard detailed in his letter how the incident made him reflect on the fragility of life and the importance of family bonds. He mentioned his hope of returning home in time for the birth of his first child, an event he had planned with great enthusiasm alongside Margaret. The letter also describes the hopes and dreams Richard had for their future together, painting a vivid picture of the daily life and aspirations of third-class immigrants aboard the Titanic. This letter not only captures Richard's personal life, but also illustrates the delicate balance between life and destiny aboard the Titanic. The love reflected in his words reminds us that, even amid tragedy, the deepest human emotions can endure. Preserved in its original paper, this love letter is an eternal reminder of the link between individual stories and the magnitude of the Titanic's tragedy. In addition to Richard's letter, other documents recovered include correspondences from passengers that reveal a diversity of relationships and emotions aboard. These letters offer a unique perspective on how people faced uncertainty and fear in their final days. For example, farewell letters, messages of hope, and promises to stay in touch were found, each narrating a part of the vast network of interconnected lives on the Titanic. The discovery of these letters has allowed historians and passengers' families to reconstruct personal stories that had been forgotten over time. By analyzing the handwriting, tone, and content of the letters, connections between passengers from different social classes have been identified, showing how the disaster affected individuals from all walks of life. These personal documents add a human dimension to the tragedy, reminding us that behind every number and statistic are lives full of love, hope, and dreams. Finally, the preservation and exhibition of these letters in museums and historical archives ensures that the love stories and losses of the Titanic are not lost to time. Through interactive and digital exhibitions, the public can access these documents, providing an emotional connection to the past and a deeper understanding of the magnitude of the disaster. The Titanic's love letters are not only historical pieces, but also enduring testimonies to the human spirit in the face of adversity. Number 14. Large piece of the hull. The Titanic, once a symbol of grandeur, left behind a legacy that continues to fascinate the world, and few things exemplify this better than the large piece of its hull. This colossal fragment, recovered from the ship's starboard side, weighs 15 tons and measures 13 by 30 feet. It is one of the most significant artifacts ever extracted from the wreck, acting as a tangible testament to the magnitude of the tragedy and the lost majesty of the Titanic. The story of this piece began in 1994 when it was discovered beneath the icy waters of the North Atlantic. However, its recovery was anything but straightforward. An attempt in 1996 ended in disaster when the cable holding the fragment broke, sending it back to the ocean floor. Finally, in 1998, after years of planning and effort, the large piece was successfully raised. This section of the hull, with shards of glass still trapped in its crevices, transports viewers directly to the events of that fateful night. The experience of standing before the large piece is overwhelming. Many visitors to the exhibits featuring it describe deep emotions, often shedding tears as they process the weight of the history before them. Some even recount a tingling sensation when touching the fragment, as if the spirit of the Titanic resides in this giant artifact. This emotional impact transforms the wreck from a myth into a tangible reality, allowing visitors to glimpse the magnitude of the disaster and honor the thousands of lives lost. The large piece is not just a physical reminder of the tragedy, but also a portal to the past. Its imposing presence invites reflection on the courage, sacrifice, and human decisions that intertwined on that night, which forever changed history. Number 13. Bottles of perfume. In 2000, during a recovery expedition, divers made an unexpected discovery that evoked the lost elegance of the Edwardian era, a leather handbag containing 62 bottles of perfume. When the bag was opened, a delicate aroma of Edwardian perfumes filled the laboratory, offering an evocative glimpse into a time of luxury and sophistication. These perfumes belonged to Adolf Seyfield, a fragrance manufacturer from Manchester who was traveling in first class. Although Seyfield managed to evacuate the Titanic, his precious handbag was left behind, waiting to be recovered nearly a century later. The vials, each a sample of exquisite fragrances, provide a testament to the attention to detail and sophistication that defined first-class passengers. After the discovery, chemists began the meticulous process of analyzing and recreating these historic scents. This effort led to Legacy 1912, a perfume that captures the spirit of the era. The fragrance combines subtle notes of lemon and neroli with the sweetness of rose and the warmth of amber, transporting those who smell it to the elegance of the Edwardian era. Even the packaging design pays homage to a Titanic artifact, a door recovered from the wreck used as inspiration to reflect the connection between past and present. The bottles of perfume are not only beautiful objects, but also time capsules that allow us to imagine the life and sophistication that defined the Titanic before its tragic fate. This discovery, in addition to reviving forgotten fragrances, deeply connects us with the personal stories that form the rich narrative of this historic ship. Number 12. Titanic Mast Bell. The Titanic's mast bell, recovered in 1987 from the depths of the Atlantic, is one of the most iconic artifacts associated with the tragedy. This bell, which rang out on the night of April 14, 1912, was frantically struck by lookout Frederick Fleet to warn of an iceberg in the ship's path. The 3 rings of the bell were a desperate signal to the crew and passengers, marking the beginning of a chain of events that would end in one of the greatest maritime disasters in history. The bell, now preserved in the Titanic Museum, symbolizes the heroism and quick thinking of lookouts Fleet and Reginald Lee, who both survived the disaster. Years later, Fleet would reveal in testimonies that the lack of binoculars had been a key factor in their inability to detect the iceberg in time. His statement that they might have avoided the collision with better equipment is a chilling reminder of how small oversights can have devastating consequences. The emotional impact of that fateful night not only marked the lives of the survivors, but also left indelible psychological scars. Frederick Fleet, deeply affected by the weight of the tragedy and the loss of his wife years later, ended his life in 1965. The Titanic mast bell remains a tangible symbol of warning, panic, and the irreparable human losses suffered that night. Number 11. Sheet music. From the depths of the North Atlantic, valuable sheet music has been recovered that sheds light on the cultural life aboard the Titanic. Among the wreckage, divers found 2 exceptional pieces. Put Your Arms Around Me, Honey, a popular song from the Broadway production Madame Cherie, dated around 1910, and Alexander's Ragtime Band by Irving Berlin, one of the most iconic melodies of the time. These scores are not just historical relics, but also a window into the musical atmosphere that filled the air aboard the majestic transatlantic liner. The Titanic's band, composed of 8 musicians led by violinist Wallace Hartley, was known for their unwavering dedication. Despite Captain Smith's orders to not abandon their posts, the musicians played tirelessly as chaos unfolded on the ship. Their melodies provided comfort and a sense of normalcy amid the disaster, becoming a symbol of courage and humanity. The inclusion of popular pieces like Alexander's Ragtime Band reflects the attempt to keep spirits high among passengers of all classes, from the elite in first class to the immigrants in third class. Among those connected to these scores is Howard Irwin, a talented trumpeter who had planned to board the Titanic as part of a musical tour with his companion, flutist Lillian "Lily" James. Although Irwin never made it aboard, the discovery of this sheet music reminds us of the musician's extraordinary bravery. After the sinking, the recovered scores were carefully restored and presented to the public, allowing future generations to appreciate the lasting legacy of Titanic's music and the lives that were intertwined with it. Number 10. The set of keys. A simple set of keys might seem insignificant, but in the context of the Titanic, these small pieces of metal became crucial tools for survival. These keys belonged to Samuel Hemming, a brave member of the Titanic crew, and played a vital role during the chaotic moments of the sinking. Hemming used these keys to access a chamber below deck where the lifeboat lanterns were stored. These lanterns became an essential source of light for passengers fleeing the ship amidst the darkness. In an act of bravery, Hemming navigated the Titanic's hallways, which were already beginning to flood, to retrieve these life-saving lanterns. His quick thinking and courage allowed him and other survivors to have light during their escape to the lifeboats, guiding many to safety. Hemming kept these keys for the rest of his life as a reminder of the heroism that helped him escape one of the most devastating tragedies in history. Over time, these keys were inherited by his descendants, who understood their deep significance. Eventually, they became a prized collector's item, symbolizing not only Hemming's bravery, but also the human stories behind the tragedy. In 2016, one of the Titanic keys was auctioned for the incredible sum of $100,000, demonstrating the emotional and historical value of these objects. These keys not only opened a door to salvation, but also connect us with the real stories of courage and sacrifice during that fateful night. Number 9. Amy's Bracelet. Among the most fascinating treasures recovered from the Titanic is Amy's delicate bracelet, an artifact that encapsulates the luxury and aspirations of the passengers of the unsinkable transatlantic ship. This ship, known for its magnificence, carried not only dreams and hopes, but also a dazzling array of jewelry and precious stones, estimated to be worth a combined total of over $200 million. Amy's bracelet, an exquisite piece, stands out as a testament to the splendor and sophistication that defined the era. The bracelet, meticulously crafted with 15-karat gold and a silver overlay, is an outstanding example of the craftsmanship of the early 20th century. The contrast between the precious metals and the intricate patterns engraved on the silver not only enhances its aesthetics, but also speaks to the artistic talent of the jewelers of the time. This delicate object reflects not only wealth, but also the personal stories and emotions of those who sailed aboard the Titanic. Though the identity of the owner is unknown, the engraving of the name Amy on the bracelet suggests that it was more than just a piece of jewelry. It represented significant bonds and hopes for the future. It could have been a gift of love, a symbol of commitment, or a reminder of a special moment in Amy's life. This artifact thus becomes a bridge to the human stories behind the tragedy, allowing us to imagine the lives and relationships that intertwined on the Titanic's journey. Amy's bracelet is much more than a piece of jewelry. It is an emblem of the dreams and emotions that were buried with the Titanic. Through it, The connection between the past and the present remains alive, reminding us of the beauty and fragility of human life amidst one of the most remembered disasters in history. Number 8. The bowler hat. Among the personal items recovered from the Titanic, a simple bowler hat stands out for its ability to connect people with the past. Discovered in 1993 among the wreckage, this hat has remarkably withstood the passage of time. Its durability and design offer us a glimpse into the fashion and customs of the early 20th century. The bowler hat was a symbol of elegance and refinement, a popular choice of headwear among gentlemen of the time. While the identity of its owner remains a mystery, this small object raises fascinating questions. Who wore it? Was it a wealthy first-class passenger or a common third-class man with dreams of a new beginning in America? Each possibility invites us to imagine the lives cut short that fateful night. This hat is more than just an accessory. It is a tangible reminder of the countless individual stories that were lost with the Titanic. It represents both the hopes and the experiences of those who boarded the ship. Although we do not know who wore it, its very existence serves as a silent monument to the lives that the disaster left behind. The journey of this hat, from its use as a fashion item to its resting place at the bottom of the ocean, symbolizes the transition from the ordinary to the historical. As we contemplate it, we are invited to reflect on the lives lived and the hopes interrupted, remembering that each object from the Titanic encapsulates a human story and a connection to the tragedy that still resonates in our collective memory. Number 7. The Alligator Wallet. Among the most fascinating artifacts recovered from the Titanic is a sturdy alligator wallet that belonged to Marion Meanwell, a British hatmaker. Marion, who initially had no intention of boarding the Titanic, ended up on the fateful journey when her originally planned ship became unavailable. Forced to change her plans, she purchased a third-class ticket, filled with the hope of starting a new life in America. Inside this wallet were important personal documents, a marriage certificate, a coupon for sending a canary, and a love note that testified to her impeccable character and timely payments. Surprisingly, the high-quality alligator leather protected these items from the ravages of water, allowing them to survive the tragedy that claimed so many lives. Marion's wallet not only stands out for its historical value, but also for its exceptional craftsmanship. The leather, thick and notably durable, is a testament to the artisanal work of the early 20th century. Conservators have noted the superior quality of this object, whose resilience allows it to serve as a tangible link between the present and the past. Although Marion did not survive the sinking of the Titanic, her wallet serves as a poignant reminder of the human stories behind the disaster. It represents the hopes and dreams cut short by the tragedy, underscoring the fragility of life and the impact of the decisions made by fate. Number 6. Wallace Hartley's violin. The sacrifice of the Titanic band is one of the most moving stories of the tragedy, and its most iconic symbol is Wallace Hartley's violin, the leader of the band. While many remember this scene thanks to James Cameron's film, what few know is that this emotional moment is based on real events. Hartley and his group of musicians bravely played while the Titanic sank, trying to keep calm among the panicked passengers. The band, made up of 8 members, decided to stay in place and continue playing until the end. Eyewitnesses stated that the musicians played the song "Nearer My God to Thee" while the ship slowly sank into the icy waters of the Atlantic. None of them survived, but their act of sacrifice was etched into the collective memory as an example of bravery and devotion to duty. Wallace Hartley's body was recovered days after the sinking, and surprisingly, his violin remained strapped to his back inside its case. This touching artifact was rescued by one of the recovery workers and later became a tangible symbol of Hartley's heroism. Decades later, the violin was identified and returned to Hartley's fiancée, Maria, who kept it as a memento of her lost love. In 2013, This violin was auctioned for the impressive sum of £1.7 million, becoming one of the most valuable and significant Titanic artifacts ever sold. Its story continues to move generations, reminding us of the sacrifice of those who gave their final moments to comfort others. It is impossible to imagine the pain Maria must have felt listening to how Wallace played his final notes in a last act of compassion and humanity. Number 5. Pocket Watch. The rusted pocket watch of Sinai Cantor, a Jewish immigrant from Russia, is a silent testimony to the human hopes and tragedies interwoven with the fate of the Titanic. Sinai boarded the ship with his wife Miriam as second-class passengers, dreaming of a new beginning in America. Their plan was simple yet significant: to study medicine and dentistry in New York, financing their studies by selling the furs they had brought with them. Tragedy struck on the night of April 15, 1912, when the Titanic succumbed to the icy Atlantic. Following the tradition of women and children first, Miriam boarded a lifeboat while Sinai, in an act of bravery, stayed aboard the ship. Thrown into the freezing waters, his fate was sealed. Days later, when his body was recovered, the pocket watch he carried with him reflected the ravages of its immersion in the ocean. The hands had faded, the dial was discolored, and the mechanism was rusted, a tangible symbol of his tragic end. Though damaged, this Swiss watch keeps the story of Sinai and Miriam alive, immortalizing their tale of love and sacrifice. At an auction, this poignant artifact reached a value of $57,500, demonstrating its ability to capture not only interest but also the hearts of those seeking human connections with the Titanic disaster. Through this watch, we are reminded that behind every artifact is a life, a dream, and a story that should never be forgotten. Number 4. Bronze Cherub. A bronze cherub that once adorned the grand staircase of the Titanic is one of the most captivating relics of the sinking. This figure, which served as a support for a lamp, was a symbol of luxury and opulence aboard the iconic ocean liner. Originally placed near the majestic first-class staircase, the Cherub became a silent witness to the tragedy that marked the Titanic's fate. Today, this artifact is on display at the Luxor Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, where it continues to fascinate visitors. While its exact location on the ship is unknown, some experts believe it was part of the upper level of the grand staircase. However, the figure is incomplete. The torch it once held and its left foot were likely lost during the sinking. The Cherub gained further notoriety with the release of James Cameron's Titanic, where the grand staircase served as the backdrop for the most romantic moments between Jack and Rose. However, this artifact also holds spiritual and symbolic significance. Cherubs, depicted as divine attendants, inspire reflection on destiny, faith, and the limits of humanity. Before the voyage, many proclaimed that not even God could sink this ship, a statement some considered blasphemous and a forewarning of the tragedy. For some, the recovery of the Cherub represents more than the preservation of a historical object. It is a reminder of the uncontrollable forces of nature and the humility we must have in the face of fate. This artifact, laden with symbolism and mystery, continues to provoke reflection on the events that led the Titanic to its tragic end and the lessons we can draw from them. Number 3. The Last Supper menu from the ship. The Titanic was not only a symbol of luxury and innovation, but also of culinary opulence. The menu from the ship's Last Supper takes us into a world of indulgence and inequality, revealing how cuisine varied according to the social class of the passengers. For the privileged first-class passengers, dinners were true spectacles of sophistication. Diners enjoyed delicacies such as spring lamb with mint sauce, roast turkey with cranberry sauce, and baked haddock with creamy sauce. Desserts like traditional plum pudding and wine jelly delighted the palates of the most distinguished passengers, while impeccable service completed the experience. The Titanic's first-class restaurant was a testament to its commitment to excellence, with more than 40 food options available during a single lunch service. In second class, though less extravagant, the food was still delicious and abundant. Passengers enjoyed dishes such as roast chicken, grilled lamb chops, and baked haddock with butter sauce. These options guaranteed a pleasurable dining experience that rivaled the standards of many restaurants on land. In third class, the food was simpler, focusing on providing basic sustenance. Dishes such as rice, soup, and boiled potatoes formed the core of the meals. Although not luxurious, this food offering still stood out compared to what many passengers would have experienced in their previous lives. The Titanic's Last Supper menu is more than a list of dishes. It is a time capsule that transports us to an era marked by inequality and aspirations. It reminds us that even in the midst of tragedy, the details of everyday life, such as a shared meal, can offer a tangible connection to the people who lived and died aboard the world's most famous ship. Number 2. Harold Lowe's Whistle. The whistle of Fifth Officer Harold Lowe is a historical piece that encapsulates heroism during the sinking of the Titanic. Lowe, a native of North Wales, displayed extraordinary bravery on the night of the tragedy. At 29 years old, he led lifeboat number 14, ferrying passengers to safety away from the sinking ship. But his most courageous act was returning to the site of the wreck to rescue more survivors trapped in the freezing Atlantic. In James Cameron's film adaptation, Lowe's character is portrayed saving Rose, played by Kate Winslet, a tribute to his daring return to the scene of the disaster. This act of bravery distinguished him from other officers who feared that the already full lifeboats would be overloaded by desperate survivors. Lowe not only led with courage, but he also confronted figures of authority such as J. Bruce Ismay, demanding that he withdraw from controlling operations amid the chaos of the night. Harold Lowe's whistle, an essential tool he used to coordinate the rescues, is inscribed with Lieutenant H.G. Lowe, Royal Naval Reserve. This artifact is currently up for auction, with an estimated value of £3,788. It represents both Lowe's spirit of service and the courage he showed in risking his life to save others. More than just an object, the whistle serves as a reminder of the humanity that emerged even in the face of such a devastating tragedy. Number 1. White gloves. Among the rarest and most surprising artifacts recovered from the Titanic is a pair of white cotton gloves. This find is remarkable not only for its uniqueness, but also for the improbability that such a delicate object could withstand over a century in the cold and corrosive waters of the North Atlantic. The gloves, despite having been subjected to extreme conditions, retain their shape and details, offering a glimpse into the fashion and refinement of the Edwardian style. Although the identity of their original owner is unknown, these gloves have captivated audiences since their inclusion in Titanic exhibitions. They represent a tangible testimony to life aboard, evoking the stories of those who sailed on the ill-fated ocean liner. In 2016, however, the gloves were removed from public display to be preserved in a conservation center due to their extreme fragility. This effort highlights the importance of protecting unique historical artifacts for future generations. The decision to protect these gloves underscores not only their historical relevance, but also their emotional connection to the Titanic tragedy. Each fold and stitch tells a story, serving as a link between the present and the past, and reminding us of the lives and dreams lost on that fateful night. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey through the relics and human stories emerging from the Titanic. These artifacts not only connect us to the past, but also remind us of the depth of the lives that intertwined on that tragic night. If you enjoyed this tour, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories that inspire, move, and surprise. See you in the next video.